There is a line your body crosses somewhere around the age of 80 that changes everything. And the strange part is, almost nobody tells you it is coming. It is not a disease. It is not a diagnosis. It is not something that shows up on a single test or announces itself with a dramatic symptom. It is something quieter, something deeper, a fundamental shift in how your body operates, how it processes what you give it, how it responds to stress, how it heals, and how it protects itself. And here's what concerns me most. The majority of people who reach this stage of life have no idea these changes are happening. They wake up one morning feeling weaker than they expected. They notice their energy disappearing for reasons they cannot explain. They start experiencing symptoms that seem unrelated to anything specific. They assume this is simply what aging feels like. But that assumption is dangerous, because what feels like inevitable decline is often the result of specific biological shifts that can be understood, addressed, and in many cases, significantly improved. The problem is that this information rarely reaches the people who need it most. It stays buried in medical literature, discussed in clinical settings, and overlooked in everyday conversations about health. Today, that changes. What I am about to share with you are 5 shocking truths about what happens to the human body after 80. These are not opinions. These are not exaggerations designed to frighten you. These are biological realities backed by decades of medical research. And understanding them could genuinely change the trajectory of your health or the health of someone you love. Whether you have already crossed into your 80s, whether you are approaching that threshold, or whether you are watching this because you care for a parent, a grandparent, or an elderly loved one, this information matters. It matters because awareness is the first step toward action. And action, even small action, can make a profound difference when you know exactly what you are dealing with. So stay with me through this entire video. Do not skip ahead. Each of these 5 truths builds on the last, and together, they paint a complete picture that most people never get to see until it is too late. If you find value in health information that is honest, practical, and designed to actually help you, take a moment right now to subscribe to Wellness Secrets. We release content like this regularly, and missing even one video could mean missing something that genuinely protects your health. Hit that subscribe button now, and let us get into the first truth that nobody warns you about. The first shocking truth is about something you do multiple times every single day without thinking about it. Something so automatic, so routine, that it never occurs to most people that it could be failing. I'm talking about digestion. Now, before you assume this is going to be a conversation about stomach discomfort or bathroom habits, let me be clear. What happens to your digestive system after 80 goes far beyond occasional discomfort. It affects your energy levels. It affects your brain function. It affects your immune system. It affects your ability to maintain muscle mass. And it operates so silently that most people never connect the dots between how they feel and what is actually happening inside their gut. Let me explain what changes. Your stomach produces a substance called hydrochloric acid. This acid is not just there to break down food. It serves as the first critical step in extracting nutrients from everything you eat. Proteins cannot be properly broken down without adequate stomach acid. Minerals like iron, calcium, and magnesium depend on an acidic environment to be absorbed. Even your body's ability to kill harmful bacteria in food relies on this acid doing its job. Here is the problem. After the age of 80, stomach acid production can decline by as much as 40% compared to what it was in younger years. For some individuals, the decline is even more severe. This is not a rare condition. It is an expected part of aging that affects the vast majority of people who reach this stage of life. And yet, almost nobody talks about it. What does this mean practically? It means that even if you are eating the healthiest diet imaginable, your body may not be absorbing the nutrients from that food the way it should. You could be consuming plenty of protein, but your body might only be extracting a fraction of the amino acids it needs. You could be taking calcium supplements, but without adequate stomach acid, much of that calcium passes right through you without ever reaching your bones. This is why so many adults over 80 experience what doctors call subclinical malnutrition. They are not starving. They are not visibly malnourished. But at the cellular level, their bodies are running on empty. And the symptoms of this hidden deficiency are easy to misinterpret. Fatigue that will not go away no matter how much you rest. Weakness that seems disproportionate to your activity level. Mental fog that makes concentration difficult. Mood changes that have no obvious cause. Increased susceptibility to infections. Slow wound healing. These are not just signs of getting older. These can be signs that your body is no longer extracting what it needs from the food you eat. But stomach acid is only part of the story. There is another factor that makes this even more serious, and it involves a substance called intrinsic factor. This is a protein produced by the cells in your stomach lining, and its job is to bind to vitamin B12, so the B12 can be absorbed in your small intestine. Without intrinsic factor, it does not matter how much B12 you consume, your body simply cannot use it. After 80, intrinsic factor production often declines significantly. The cells that produce it become less active. The stomach lining itself may thin, and the result is that B12 deficiency becomes remarkably common in this age group. Why does B12 matter so much? Because B12 is essential for nerve function, for the production of red blood cells, for DNA synthesis, and for maintaining cognitive health. A deficiency in B12 can cause symptoms that look almost identical to dementia: memory problems, confusion, difficulty with balance, personality changes, numbness, or tingling in the hands and feet. Large studies have shown that a significant percentage of adults over 80 have B12 levels that are either deficient or borderline deficient. And here's the concerning part. Many of these individuals are eating foods that contain B12. Some are even taking B12 supplements in pill form. But because their stomachs can no longer produce enough intrinsic factor, that B12 is not being absorbed. This is why doctors who specialize in geriatric medicine often recommend B12 injections or high-dose sublingual B12 for patients in this age group. These delivery methods bypass the stomach entirely, allowing the vitamin to enter the bloodstream directly. If you are over 80 and you have never had your B12 levels checked, this is something worth discussing with your doctor. A simple blood test can reveal whether you are deficient, and addressing that deficiency can sometimes produce dramatic improvements in energy and mental clarity. But we are not finished with the digestive system yet. Beyond the stomach, your pancreas also plays a critical role in digestion. The pancreas produces enzymes that break down proteins, fats, and carbohydrates in the small intestine. These enzymes are essential for extracting nutrients from the food that leaves your stomach. After 80, pancreatic enzyme production often decreases. The pancreas, like so many organs at this age, becomes less efficient. It still functions, but it does not produce the same volume or potency of enzymes that it once did. The result is that food passes through the digestive system without being fully broken down. Proteins are not completely digested into amino acids. Fats are not properly emulsified and absorbed. Carbohydrates may ferment in the gut, causing bloating and discomfort. Simply eating healthy is no longer enough. After 80, your body's ability to process that healthy food has changed. And without understanding this change, you may find yourself frustrated by symptoms that seem to have no explanation. Some adults over 80% benefit from digestive enzyme supplements taken with meals. These supplements provide the enzymes that the pancreas may no longer produce in adequate quantities. They can improve nutrient absorption, reduce digestive discomfort, and help the body extract more value from every meal. However, and this is important, digestive enzyme supplements are not appropriate for everyone. Some medical conditions and medications can interact with these supplements. Before adding anything new to your routine, it is essential to discuss it with your doctor. This is not about self-treating based on general information. This is about understanding what might be happening in your body so that you can have an informed conversation with a healthcare professional. There is one more piece of this digestive puzzle that deserves attention. Your small intestine is lined with tiny finger-like projections called villi. These villi dramatically increase the surface area of your intestinal lining, allowing for maximum nutrient absorption. When food passes through your small intestine, nutrients are absorbed through these villi and into your bloodstream. After 80, the villi often become shorter and less numerous. The surface area available for absorption decreases. The cells that line the intestine may not regenerate as quickly as they once did, and the blood flow to the intestinal lining may diminish, further reducing the efficiency of nutrient uptake. This is called intestinal atrophy. And while it sounds alarming, it is a normal part of aging that affects most people to some degree. The key is understanding that it is happening so that you can adjust your approach to nutrition accordingly. What can you actually do about all of this? First, consider eating smaller, more frequent meals rather than large meals spaced far apart. Smaller meals are easier for a compromised digestive system to handle. They require less stomach acid, fewer enzymes, and less work from the intestinal lining. Spreading your nutrition throughout the day gives your body multiple opportunities to absorb what it needs. Second, chew your food thoroughly. This sounds simple, almost too simple, but it matters more after 80 than at any other time in your life. Chewing breaks food into smaller particles and mixes it with saliva, which contains enzymes that begin the digestive process. The more work you do in your mouth, the less work your stomach and intestines have to do. Third, pay attention to food combinations. Protein digestion requires significant stomach acid. If you combine protein with large amounts of liquid, you dilute your stomach acid and make digestion less efficient. Try to limit fluid intake during meals, drinking most of your water between meals rather than with them. Fourth, consider foods that are easier to digest. Well-cooked vegetables are easier to break down than raw vegetables. Tender cuts of meat or fish are easier to process than tough, fibrous proteins. Soups and stews, where food is already partially broken down by cooking, can be excellent choices for adults over 80. Fifth, discuss supplementation with your doctor. Beyond B12, there may be other nutrients that you are not absorbing adequately. Vitamin D, iron, folate, and zinc are all commonly deficient in older adults due to absorption issues. A comprehensive blood panel can reveal where you stand and guide appropriate supplementation. The goal here is not to frighten you about eating. Food should still be enjoyable. Meals should still be pleasurable. But understanding that your digestive system operates differently after 80 allows you to make informed choices that support your body rather than unknowingly working against it. This first truth is something that affects virtually everyone who reaches their 80s, yet it remains one of the least discussed aspects of aging. Doctors often focus on diseases and diagnoses, but the slow, silent decline in digestive efficiency flies under the radar until its effects become impossible to ignore. Now, you know, and knowing gives you power. But digestion is only the beginning. The second truth I need to share with you involves something even more immediately dangerous, something that affects your heart, your brain, and your ability to simply stand up without risking a serious fall. The second shocking truth that nobody warns you about involves something you have probably been monitoring for years, something your doctor checks at every single visit, something you may even track at home with your own device. I am talking about blood pressure. Now, you might be thinking that blood pressure is one area where you already know what you need to know. High blood pressure is dangerous. It increases your risk of heart attack and stroke. You should keep your numbers under control. This is basic health information that most adults have heard countless times. But here is what changes after 80. And this is where the situation becomes far more complicated than most people realize. Your cardiovascular system does not operate by the same rules at 80 that it did at 60 or even 70. The relationship between your heart, your blood vessels, and your blood pressure fundamentally shifts in ways that can make standard medical advice not only unhelpful, but potentially dangerous. Let me explain what happens inside your body. Throughout your life, your arteries have been flexible. They expand when your heart pumps blood into them, and they contract between beats. This elasticity helps regulate blood pressure and ensures smooth blood flow to your organs. Your arteries have been quietly doing this job since the day you were born. But after decades of use, your arteries begin to stiffen. The walls of these blood vessels accumulate deposits. The elastic fibers that allowed them to flex become rigid. The smooth muscle within the arterial walls becomes less responsive. This process, called arterial stiffening, accelerates significantly after 80. When your arteries stiffen, something interesting happens to your blood pressure readings. Your systolic pressure, which is the top number, tends to rise. This is the pressure when your heart contracts and pushes blood out. Because your arteries can no longer expand to accommodate that surge of blood, the pressure increases. At the same time, your diastolic pressure, the bottom number, often decreases. This is the pressure between heartbeats when your heart is resting. Because your stiff arteries cannot recoil the way they used to, the pressure drops more between beats. The result is what doctors call widened pulse pressure. The gap between your systolic and diastolic numbers grows larger. You might see readings like 150/65 or 160/70. That large difference between the two numbers is a signature of arterial stiffening. Why does this matter? Because the blood pressure targets that were appropriate when you were younger may no longer make sense after 80. And this is where the medical community itself has been reconsidering its approach. For years, the standard advice was to bring blood pressure down to specific target numbers regardless of age. The assumption was that lower is always better, and aggressive treatment would always reduce risk. But research over the past 2 decades has revealed a more nuanced picture. In adults over 80, overly aggressive blood pressure treatment can cause serious problems. When systolic pressure is pushed too low through medication, blood flow to the brain can become insufficient. This can cause dizziness, confusion, falls, and even cognitive decline. The brain depends on adequate blood pressure to receive the oxygen and nutrients it needs. Push that pressure too low, and the brain suffers. Large clinical trials have shown that adults over 80 who are treated too aggressively for blood pressure actually have worse outcomes than those treated more conservatively. Falls increase, hospitalizations increase, quality of life decreases. The medication meant to protect them ends up causing harm. This does not mean that high blood pressure should be ignored after 80. Uncontrolled hypertension still increases the risk of stroke and heart failure. The point is that the treatment targets need to be individualized, and what works for a 55-year-old is not necessarily appropriate for an 85-year-old. If you are over 80 and taking blood pressure medication, this is worth discussing with your doctor. Ask whether your current targets are appropriate for your age and overall health status. Ask whether your medication dosages have been reviewed recently. Ask whether any adjustments might reduce side effects while still providing protection. But the blood pressure story after 80 does not end with medication management. There is another phenomenon that becomes increasingly common at this age, and it is one of the leading causes of falls in elderly adults. It is called orthostatic hypotension, and it happens when your blood pressure drops suddenly upon standing. Here is how it works. When you're sitting or lying down, your blood settles toward the lower parts of your body due to gravity. When you stand up, your cardiovascular system needs to quickly adjust. Your heart rate increases slightly. Your blood vessels constrict to push blood upward toward your brain. This adjustment happens automatically and almost instantaneously in younger people. After 80, this system becomes sluggish. The reflexes that control blood vessel constriction slow down. The nervous system signals that trigger these adjustments become less reliable. The result is that when you stand up, especially quickly, your blood pressure can drop significantly before your body catches up. What does this feel like? Lightheadedness, dizziness, a feeling like you might faint, vision that temporarily darkens or blurs, unsteadiness that makes you reach for something to hold on to. In many cases, people experience these symptoms and simply wait for them to pass. They assume it is just a momentary inconvenience. But here is the danger. That moment of instability is when falls happen. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, falls after 80 can have devastating consequences. Studies have shown that orthostatic hypotension affects a significant percentage of adults over 80. Some estimates suggest that more than 30% of people in this age group experience it to some degree, and the prevalence increases further among those taking blood pressure medications, which makes this a double-edged sword that requires careful management. What can you do to protect yourself? First, never stand up quickly. This sounds simple, but it requires conscious effort to change lifelong habits. When you wake up in the morning, sit on the edge of the bed for a full minute before standing. When you get up from a chair, pause halfway. Give your cardiovascular system time to adjust before you place demands on your balance. Second, stay adequately hydrated. Dehydration worsens orthostatic hypotension significantly. When your blood volume is low due to insufficient fluid intake, your body has less to work with when trying to maintain pressure upon standing. Make hydration a daily priority. Third, be cautious after meals. Blood flow is diverted to your digestive system after eating, which can lower blood pressure elsewhere in your body. The period immediately after a meal is a higher risk time for orthostatic symptoms. Avoid standing up quickly after eating, and consider resting briefly after larger meals. Fourth, review your medications. Some blood pressure drugs are more likely to cause orthostatic hypotension than others. The timing of when you take your medication can also matter. If you take a blood pressure pill at night and experience symptoms in the morning, that timing might need adjustment. This is something to discuss specifically with your doctor. Fifth, consider compression stockings. These garments gently squeeze the veins in your legs, helping to push blood back toward your heart. They can reduce the pooling of blood in your lower extremities and make the adjustment to standing easier. Your doctor can recommend the appropriate compression level. There is one more aspect of blood pressure after 80 that deserves your attention, and it relates directly to your brain. Research has increasingly shown a connection between blood pressure patterns and cognitive function in older adults. Both chronically high blood pressure and excessively low blood pressure can contribute to cognitive decline. The brain needs consistent, adequate blood flow to function properly. When pressure fluctuates wildly, or when it is pushed too low by medication, the brain suffers cumulative damage over time. This is why blood pressure management after 80 requires such a careful, individualized approach. The goal is not simply to hit a target number on a chart. The goal is to find the balance that protects your heart, protects your brain, keeps you steady on your feet, and allows you to live with energy and clarity. If you have made it this far in the video, you are clearly someone who takes your health seriously. That is exactly the kind of person who benefits most from this information. Take a moment right now to hit the like button on this video. That simple action helps more people find this content, and it helps our channel continue creating videos like this one. If you are not yet subscribed to Wellness Secrets, now is the time to change that. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss information that could protect your health. Now let me move on to the third truth, because this one involves an organ that is failing silently in the majority of adults over 80, often without any obvious symptoms until the damage is already significant. The third shocking truth is about your kidneys, and I need to be direct with you. What I am about to explain is something that affects most adults over 80, yet remains one of the most underdiagnosed and underappreciated health issues in this age group. Your kidneys are not just filtration devices. Yes, they filter waste from your blood and produce urine, but they do far more than that. Your kidneys regulate the balance of fluids in your body. They control electrolyte levels, including sodium, potassium, and calcium. They produce hormones that affect blood pressure and red blood cell production. They activate vitamin D so that your body can use it properly. They help maintain the acid-base balance that all of your cells depend on. When your kidneys function well, all of these processes happen seamlessly in the background. You never think about them. But when kidney function declines, the effects ripple through every system in your body. Here's the reality that most people do not know. By the age of 80, the average person has lost approximately 30 to 40% of their kidney function compared to when they were young. Some individuals have lost even more. This decline happens gradually over decades, and it typically produces no symptoms until it reaches an advanced stage. Doctors measure kidney function using something called the estimated glomerular filtration rate, or eGFR. This number represents how efficiently your kidneys are filtering your blood. A normal eGFR in a healthy young adult is around 90 to 120. Mild kidney disease begins when eGFR drops below 90. Moderate kidney disease is classified as eGFR between 30 and 59. Severe kidney disease is below 30, and kidney failure is below 15. Studies have shown that a significant majority of adults over 80 fall into the category of stage 2 or stage 3 chronic kidney disease based on their eGFR. Most of them have never been told they have kidney disease. Most of them experience no obvious symptoms, and many of them are taking medications, eating foods, and living in ways that place additional stress on kidneys that are already compromised. This is why I call it a silent decline. The kidneys continue working at reduced capacity for years, and the body adapts as best it can. But that adaptation comes at a cost, and eventually, the consequences become impossible to ignore. Let me explain what declining kidney function actually means for your daily health. First, it affects how your body handles medications. The kidneys are responsible for clearing many medications from your bloodstream. When kidney function declines, medications stay in your system longer than intended. This can lead to drug accumulation and increased side effects. This is particularly dangerous because adults over 80 typically take multiple medications. Each of those medications interacts with your reduced kidney function. Doses that were appropriate when your kidneys were stronger may now be too high. Side effects that seem unrelated to any specific drug might actually be caused by accumulated medication that your kidneys cannot clear fast enough. If you are over 80 and taking any medications, it is essential that your doctor knows your current kidney function. Many medications require dose adjustments based on eGFR. Some medications should be avoided entirely once kidney function drops below certain thresholds. This is not optional information. It is critical for your safety. Second, declining kidney function affects your fluid balance. Your kidneys regulate how much water your body retains and how much it excretes. When kidney function diminishes, this regulation becomes less precise. You may retain fluid more easily, leading to swelling in your ankles, feet, or hands. You may also become dehydrated more quickly because your kidneys cannot concentrate urine as efficiently. This creates a difficult balancing act. You need adequate hydration for cardiovascular health, cognitive function, and digestion. But too much fluid can overwhelm kidneys that are already struggling. The optimal amount varies from person to person based on their individual kidney function, heart health, and other factors. There is no universal answer, which is why working with a doctor who understands your complete health picture is so important. Third, declining kidney function affects your electrolyte levels. Your kidneys are responsible for maintaining the proper balance of sodium, potassium, phosphorus, and other minerals in your blood. When kidney function declines, this balance can become disrupted. Potassium is particularly important to understand. Normally, your kidneys excrete excess potassium in your urine. When kidney function decreases, potassium can accumulate in your blood. High potassium levels, a condition called hyperkalemia, can cause muscle weakness, fatigue, and in severe cases, dangerous heart rhythm disturbances. This has direct implications for diet. Many foods that are considered healthy, such as bananas, oranges, potatoes, tomatoes, and spinach, are high in potassium. For someone with normal kidney function, these foods are excellent choices. But for someone with compromised kidney function, consuming too many high-potassium foods can push blood potassium levels into dangerous territory. This does not mean you must avoid these foods entirely. It means you need to know where your kidney function stands so that you can make informed decisions. A simple blood test can measure your potassium level and reveal whether dietary modifications are necessary. Fourth, declining kidney function affects how your body processes phosphorus. Phosphorus is found in many foods, particularly dairy products, nuts, seeds, meat, and processed foods that contain phosphate additives. Healthy kidneys excrete excess phosphorus easily. Compromised kidneys cannot. When phosphorus accumulates in the blood, it triggers a cascade of problems. Your body pulls calcium from your bones to bind with the excess phosphorus. This weakens your bones over time. The phosphorus-calcium complexes can also deposit in blood vessels and soft tissues, accelerating arterial stiffening and increasing cardiovascular risk. Again, this does not require panic. It requires awareness. If your kidney function is reduced, paying attention to phosphorus intake becomes important. Reading food labels for phosphate additives, limiting processed foods, and moderating dairy consumption can help protect both your bones and your blood vessels. Fifth, declining kidney function can contribute to anemia. Your kidneys produce a hormone called erythropoietin, which signals your bone marrow to produce red blood cells. When kidney function declines, erythropoietin production often decreases. The result is fewer red blood cells, which means less oxygen being delivered to your tissues. This kind of anemia causes fatigue, weakness, shortness of breath, and difficulty concentrating. These symptoms are often attributed to simply getting older, but they may actually be caused by reduced kidney function. Treatment is available in the form of medications that stimulate red blood cell production, but first, the underlying cause must be identified. Here's what I want you to understand about kidney function after 80. The decline itself cannot be reversed. You cannot regenerate lost kidney tissue, but you absolutely can protect the kidney function you still have. You can slow further decline. You can adjust your diet, medications, and lifestyle to reduce the burden on your kidneys. And you can catch problems early, before they become serious. What should you actually do? First, ask your doctor about your EG4. This number should be part of your routine blood work. If you have never discussed it specifically, ask what it is and what it means for your health. Understanding your baseline is essential. Second, if your kidney function is reduced, ask for a referral to a nephrologist, which is a kidney specialist. General practitioners are excellent for many health issues, but kidney disease management often benefits from specialized expertise. Third, stay properly hydrated, but discuss your specific fluid needs with your doctor. The optimal amount depends on your individual situation, including your kidney function, heart health, and medications. Fourth, be cautious with pain relievers. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, such as ibuprofen and naproxen, can be particularly hard on the kidneys. Acetaminophen is generally considered safer for kidney health, but even that should be used judiciously and discussed with your doctor. Fifth, review all of your medications with your doctor in light of your kidney function. Ask specifically whether each medication is cleared by the kidneys and whether the dose is appropriate given your current EGFR. Sixth, if your kidney function is significantly reduced, discuss dietary modifications. A registered dietitian with experience in kidney disease can help you create an eating plan that supports your kidneys without requiring you to give up all the foods you enjoy. The kidneys work quietly and uncomplainingly for your entire life. After 80, they deserve your attention and your protection. The good news is that even small changes can make a meaningful difference in preserving the function you still have. Now, as significant as kidney function is, the fourth truth I need to share with you affects something equally critical, but even more immediately connected to how you feel every single day. It involves what happens when you close your eyes at night and attempt to rest.